Welcome to the NewsBlitz. Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the NewsBlitz for the week of the 8th of February. The NewsBlitz is a brief take on some of the gaming events of the past week, providing a quick look at the news, hence news, followed by a heady rush of hot, fresh opinions, the Blitz. This is a little show that works hard to wear its biases on its sleeve and give you a clear line between fact and thought. In this week, Hearthstone sets up a standard format, Todd Howard earns a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Ubisoft puts their foot in their mouth. That isn't anything new, but it's always entertaining when it does happen. Hearthstone announced that it will be adopting formats on the 1st of February similar to the original big dog of card games, Magic the Gathering. Blizzard has stated that the standard format will include all cards from the current and previous calendar year, alongside all basic and classic cards. Alongside standard, they'll have the wild format, allowing you to bring forth your entire collection. They've stated that this update will hit in the spring, and the first standard format will include cards from the Blackrock Mountain expansion, the Grand Tournament, League of Explorers, and the mysterious Spring 2016 expansion, meaning no Naxxramas and no Gnomes vs Goblins. These modes will only affect challenging your friends, ranked and casual ladders, so no standard arena format, merely splitting the matchmaking into two new groups. In a video to explain the changes, which can be found in the description, lead designer Ben Brode elaborated on the reasons behind the decision. In short, standard is meant to be a way for newer players to not feel a need to suddenly collect several expansions worth of cards, as well as helping to keep things balanced, help keep space open to design new cards, and keep the game fresh. Detractors across various forums have gone on to claim that this is just a way to remove cards from the pool and force you into buying new ones. So let me just get out of the way right now that this channel has links to Blizzard. No official links, no official ties, but of course we got started with Overwatch, we're going to continue with Overwatch. Overwatch is a big deal. As such, I am sort of friendly with Blizzard. But I just want to get that bias out there just because, you know, it should be known to everyone. Now, you got to remember that Hearthstone is a game that's got to last several years, and by several years, I mean this is the way that Blizzard approach all their titles, right? They don't just throw them out there and expect them to sort of float on and don't do anything with them, maybe release a casual expansion. No, Blizzard are actually really good at supporting the games they release and keeping content coming for a month after month after month. I mean, just look at Diablo 3, Hearthstone, StarCraft 2, there's still stuff coming for all of those titles. And with Hearthstone being one of the most profitable games on the planet, it's no surprise that they're thinking ahead and thinking the long term. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about Hearthstone lasting for years and years and years and years, it's going to hit a point where there's just thousands of cards. They're all going to be really similar to each other. There's going to be no doubt best cards for each category. So if you want a tanky card, for example, you'll have Sludge Belcher. Or there'll be better cards and you'll have power creep out the arse and all sorts of problems. What this will do is it'll help avoid some of that power creep, so new cards don't have to compete with already overpowered cards like the aforementioned Sludge Belcher or like Dr. Boom, for example, cards that just sort of throw the entire curve into whack. I mean, why else would you play something on the 7 mana slot that isn't Dr. Boom, for example? And the reaction to this is interesting to me because Wild is still there and it will still be played. Without getting into the complete morass of is Hearthstone competitive, at the heart of this issue, the real core, centerpiece of this issue is the question, and this is just a question, it's not meant to be offensive, it's why do you play Hearthstone? Like, why are you playing Hearthstone? Just ask yourself that question if this decision sort of confuses you or baffles you or makes you upset in some way. Because the player base is large enough to support both ladders, so there's no omnipresent force making you play standard, only that standard is going to probably be a bit better balanced in the long term. If you do play Hearthstone and want to be like the best Hearthstone player on the planet, you want to win them sweet Hearthstone competitive titles, then having the game shift towards standard being a format is going to be easier to balance and it'll keep the game fresh as well. If you are playing that kind of hardcore mentality, you'll be buying the expansions anyway, you would have been buying the cards no matter what, so, you know, for the hardcore player, this is good for you in terms of you get better balance, you get a better tuned game for the long term, you get a game that's more likely to last long term, and for the average player, if you want to have your big collection of cards, you can play Wild, and there'll be a shitload of people playing Wild, I can pretty much guarantee it. I do get the argument that you've lost something in one game mode, like in the standard format, if you've bought those cards can't be played, you feel like you've lost something. But instead of viewing it from the angle that, you know, they're introducing standard, and because it's standard, that's the way that everyone's going to play, think of it in terms of you've gained a new game mode that's going to be better tuned, better balanced, and there's still a game mode for you if you do want to use those other cards. You've gained something for a longer lasting game. I mean, Hearthstone's lasted for about 2 years now. It's longer than 2 years, I think. And it's insane, right? Like, it's a card game, and it's going to endure, and it's going to go for years and years and years and years. This is a decision that I think is in support of not, 1 or 2 years down the line, when it will be quite daunting for a new player to get started, but 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, they'll still be making stuff for Hearthstone. I guarantee it. As long as it's still making money, Hearthstone will still have content being pushed for it. And for the game to last that long, this had to happen. This was kind of inevitable, and I think most people who follow Magic or follow other card games will have seen this coming. So one reason I do see people getting upset as well is they feel like this is a way to press you into buying new cards. So, if you want to play Standard, you have to constantly buy the new expansions. But I will make the argument that if you want to play Ladder and you want to play it seriously, and I think only people who play it seriously are really that invested in laddering up. Goodness knows, I only play Hearthstone occasionally as a distraction, for example. I don't get that invested in the ladder. I might occasionally have a month of trying to push fairly high up, but otherwise it sits on my Battle.net account and I occasionally play a game or two. If you do play it in a serious manner, you'll be buying the new expansions no matter what, so they're not really gaining sales by invalidating your previous ones in the standard format. So to me, it's a bit of a weird criticism to throw at them. Ultimately, I think it's just healthier for the game long term that this decision's come in. Hopefully there'll still be a player base for Wild. To me, that's the ideal, if Wild still has its place, and then the Arena will always have its place as well, and they'll always use all the cards. Of course, that isn't your collection. And then you have the standard format for a more balanced, more finely tuned version of the game, and it lets them phase out some of the mistakes that would be otherwise hard to remove, like Boom and Sludge Belcher. Todd Howard of Bethesda Game Studios has earned himself a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Game Developers Choice Awards, a long-running set of awards decided by a pack of some of the industry's best and brightest. Todd Howard, director and designer on titles such as The Elder Scrolls and more recent Fallout titles, aside from New Vegas, joined the ranks of people such as Warren Spector, Peter Molyneux, Hideo Kojima, John Carmack and Sid Meier. Mr. Howard was chosen for the award due to his work on open-world titles, being described as a visionary creator who has pushed the industry forward in making worlds rich with detail. Critics of the choice cite the timing of the award, with Fallout 4 failing to meet its astronomical hype. Others lament his habit of promising and under-delivering, but, well, let's just get to the Blitz. I'm going to open and saying that Hideo Kojima and Peter Molyneux both have one of these awards, so if over-promising discounted you, their awards would have self-destructed the moment it touched their hands. While Fallout 4 was a lukewarm affair, I personally much preferred Skyrim and Oblivion even more before that. The work Bethesda puts into the game is staggering. Nobody else would dare to make a game quite like it, and the potential for it to be a huge mess is enormous. I mean, think about the number of NPCs moving around, the way they interact with environments, the way they interact with each other, the fact that you can kill some of them and they still have to work like clockwork. The game can't implode just because the players decided to kill an NPC. Now, of course, people do lament the increase in invulnerable NPCs for quest reasons and stuff like that, and there's all sorts of problems. I think the games overall have become shallower, the more technologically advanced they've become, which is weird. But they're still amazing achievements, they're still huge games, and nobody else would dare make a game like them because there'll be a huge buggy mess. It's just far too complicated, far too big an investment to even attempt to make a game like Bethesda makes. And you've got to remember that this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, not a Fallout 4 was okay award. And Mr. Howard's game set an industry standard for open world games. You've also got to remember the impact that he's had on the industry. Skyrim and Fallout especially are some of the most recognizable games on the planet to the average person on the street. He's done a lot, and sure, it's not perfect and I wouldn't call him the greatest game developer ever, but he's justified in earning this award in my opinion. More on The Division as the issue of console and PC parity rears its ugly head once more. In a piece to a YouTube channel called Team Epiphany, one of the developers said, "One good thing about The Division is we've always considered the PC as a separate platform. We do have to keep it in check with the consoles, it would be kind of unfair to push it so far away from them. But it's good having a dedicated PC build for this game." The Division also impressed recently with the fact that it offers console players a choice of graphical options, letting the players prioritize frame rate or visual fidelity. While the PC version of the game boasts better visuals, critics decry the fact that it's been revealed that they could have been better, and I'll join them in doing so in The Blitz. I'm gonna jump on this quote like a hungry goddamn tiger attacking a wounded animal. It would be kind of unfair to push it so far away from them. Unfair to whom? Who are we being unfair to here? The console players who spent less on their gaming machine and as such have, weaker hardware that can't really be upgraded? Unfair to the PC players who spent more on their hardware and can run better games. Unfair to the people who invested in PCs because, hey, PCs get better graphics and by the time consoles were released were already better than the consoles. It's insane to me that this is something that still happens, and I can try and think of a few reasons of why it does, but it does hurt me inside. I can understand the desire for developers to release a game that has lower graphics to suit lower end PCs. I mean, again, let's go back to Blizzard. Overwatch isn't the prettiest game in the world. It's visually striking, and I think it's a nice looking game, but it's not the prettiest thing on the planet. But it's designed to run on toasters. The Division is meant to be visually very beautiful. And the fact that it could have looked even better, which is basically what this guy is saying, oh, we could have made it even better, but we decided not to because it would make the console players feel bad. Like, that's what that quote says, essentially. And sure, I'm twisting the words, but it's kind of annoying. And this is just going to become a bigger and bigger issue. I mean, as I said, when consoles first released, they were already behind the current PCs then. So with new graphics cards coming out, with the GeForce 900 range, for example, they were just even more invalidated. And with more graphics cards coming, no doubt, in the near future, it's just going to get insane. Now, the only reason why I could think of this happening, and allow me to argue with myself for a moment, it's something I love doing, is the fact that by having PC and console parity, it means the features and the coding, I guess, of the game is fairly similar. So if the PC had a bunch of visual treats and visual design things going on under the hood and got buggier as a result, they'd have to devote more resources to the PC version, which probably isn't going to sell as well as the console versions, so why would you spend those resources there? Now, my counter-argument to myself is something I've been seeing game companies do more and more of, especially around E3 and other gaming sort of showpiece events. And that's by having a PC version of the game, you can basically ramp up the PC version's graphics, use those to make your trailers, use those to make your show off your gameplay footage at those events, and then have it worse on consoles, and you'll be able to say and be able to claim quite rightly that, hey, no, this is how the game looks on PC, it's just not how it looks on consoles. But ultimately, this is an issue that is going to just keep coming up again and again and again. Now, I imagine most developers are going to have the tact not to outright admit that, hey, we could have made this game better looking on PC, but it's sort of rumbling under the hood, and it was rumbling under the hood since the next console generation was released, and it's really going to start rearing its ugly head over and over and over. Personally, I think it's horrible. And the only reason why this is in here is because I think outcry is the best way to counter this kind of thing, so this is my outcry. And breaking news, literally right before I was about to hit render on this video, it turns out Ubisoft have issued a statement regarding this piece of news. Ubisoft have sent a statement to PC Gamer, stating, "It has come to our attention that a comment from one of our team members has been perceived by some members of the community to imply the PC version of The Division was held back, and this is simply not true. From the beginning, the PC version of The Division was developed from the ground up, and we're confident players will enjoy the game and the features this version has to offer. And the feedback from PC players who participated in the recent closed beta supports this." So let's just blitz this real quickly. First of all, they must not have seen my feedback if they think that the PC community is all rallying behind them. I also know my good friend Stylosa over at Unit Lost rather echoed my opinions. It's good to see that we're of the same mind. It was probably just designed to be similar to the console version, and it doesn't really say anything. It just says, hey, no, we didn't make the game intentionally shit, but it says that we didn't go out of our way to make it any better anyway. So that's all this really says to me. Otherwise, back to the outro. Thanks for joining me on this round of NewsBlitz. I've been Josh, as one voice amongst many, and I'll see you next week for another look into the world of gaming news. I'll try not to make it, hey, Overwatch beta is back up and I've done nothing else all week. As always, your thoughts and feedback is appreciated. And if you like the video, hit that little thumb, it does help immensely. Toodles!